Okay, so when I made that NC500 video, it was supposed to be a one-off given how big a deal the trip is, and if I was going to make it, at least make it something useful for others over and above a home video. But it got views and feedback I really wasn't expecting, so I figured I'll keep doing it as long as folk think it's interesting. The Southwest Coastal 300, or SWC300, is a loop that takes in much of the southwest of Scotland, but of course not all of it. There's a website I'll put in the description with more information about the route and many of the things you can get up to around it, but essentially that website is volunteer run and geared around bringing in tourism to the area. We decided to do the route over 2 days as it's not really that far from our homes and we don't do any activities on the route. For us it's about the roads and maybe some landmarks and sites that are on the road as an excuse to stop. But if you wanted to do more, you'd need more days for hiking, tours, attractions, that sort of thing, which there's plenty of along the way. Much like the NC500 last year, we decided around a week before that we were going and there wasn't much availability, but we found a great hotel in Newton Stewart as our halfway point. The start of the Southwest Coastal 300 is wherever you want obviously, but if you live in the Glasgow area, Ayr is a good shout. And if you're heading for Ayr, Kilbarchan is a good place to aim for as a starting point to head to the coast. It's 6 minutes from Glasgow Airport and 14 minutes from Glasgow city centre. Less than a minute after coming off at Kilbarchan, you're on the back road to Lochwinnoch, which is awesome. Ride through Lochwinnoch and you're on the Largs road, and Largs is where you can hit the coast, where you then ride down the west coastline to get to Ayr, rather than direct by motorway. If you want to go straight to Ayr, you've got the M77 from Glasgow, which is about 50 minutes, and about the same from Glasgow to Elvanfoot on the M74 if you want to start there. Elvanfoot is probably a good starting point anywhere east of Glasgow. If you want to do the Kilbarchan, Lochwinnoch, Largs, Ayr Road, it's around double that. Probably not on a bike. If you're coming from or through England, you've got Lockerbie or Dumfries to start. I won't go into the cost as it was such a short trip, or the backpack checklist. You can check that out on the NC500 video, but pause or screenshot this list if you need it. We didn't take everything here as it was just 2 days and 1 night. The only new things I had for the trip was a new airbag jacket and a GoPro Hero 9 instead of the quite old GoPro session I used for the NC500. I was hoping the 4K capability and linear view instead of the fisheye would make the scenery clearer and seem less off in the distance. Oh, and I've got a 12V USB access now to charge the phone while on the quad lock instead of keeping a charger brick in my pocket and running the cable. So, onto the trip. We made our way to Largs with a plan to enjoy a coffee and check out the day I'd planned ahead. After our coffee we headed down the coast, heading to Ayr. Quick stop there, then onto the actual SWC300 route. It's good that the anti-clockwise route had us on the coast the first day as the weather was great. There was no rain scheduled for both days, but the second day threatened to be a little overcast if still very warm. The first official stop was Dunure Castle, which is a small ruin looking over an equally small harbour and beach. I think you need to pay to park normally, but I don't think things are open back up fully regarding restrictions, so we were free to just park up and wander. Soon after Dunure is the electric Brae, which if you park up your vehicle on the lay-by pointing uphill, out of gear, it will still pull you up the hill. Someone got there before us though and we couldn't be bothered hanging around. Then, continuing down the coastal road, we planned to stop at Culzean Castle, but I trusted the sat-nav too much and it took us past the entrance to a road into the back of the castle grounds that was closed, and we didn't turn round. We're going to be heading down here in the future, more on that in day 2, so it wasn't too bad skipping some of the stuff to see another time. Also note, the sat-nav did this to us a few times on the trip where we missed cut-offs for sites and landmarks and had to go back, so keep that in mind. So, heading down the coast you pass a bunch of stuff. The roads are great, good surfaces that haven't been butchered like the NC500 with heavy traffic. We headed down through the beautiful Kennedy Pass, all while spying Ailsa Craig on your shoulder, which is an uninhabited Scottish island in the Irish Sea that's now a bird sanctuary. Speaking of rocks, I must have been living under one as both options I researched beforehand for lunch shut around 2 PM and opened again at 5. I didn't know that was a thing, so we had nowhere sorted for lunch, so we stopped earlier in Girvan. After lunch we headed on down the coast to Stranraer, fueled up, then from there the official route takes you straight to Portpatrick. Instead we went all the way around the B738 to try and honour the coast, which was actually kinda nice as it was mostly farm area with loads of nice hills and cows. Then we hit Portpatrick, which I've been to a good few times as it's a popular spot to hit when on a bigger one-day road trip from the Glasgow area. It's still really nice though, the places to eat are great if you want a burger from the van or restaurant quality food while taking in the harbour. There's loads to walk around and see, and good photo ops from a patriotic old man to local wildlife. We planned on visiting Dunskey Castle, but the sat-nav done us again, taking us into a private caravan park. I think you're supposed to walk from the actual port. Anyway, I wasn't going back, and we headed straight down the most southerly tip of Scotland, the Mull of Galloway lighthouse. We took the most southwesterly route down, rather than the quickest sat-nav way from Portpatrick, then the southeasterly road when leaving, just so we were retracing our steps at least and occasionally exploring the road less travelled. We carried on round, sticking to the coast until we came to our final stop before heading to the hotel, the Isle of Whithorn. This played out really well by accident, because we were there around 7 PM when the sun was low and it made the harbour look amazing. We walked around for a bit, checking it out amongst the fishermen and the locals who were at the local harbour restaurant outside seating, enjoying the view as well. And that was pretty much day one. We made our way to Newton Stewart to our hotel for the night, the Creebridge House Hotel. This place was immaculate with great food and friendly staff. Definitely recommend it if you're passing through. On to day two, and one of the reasons for coming down and doing the trip was that me and my dad were thinking about buying a whisky cask together. Something cool to have where you can come down and see your cask, re-gauge it, draw samples, transfer your whisky into a different cask, or when you think the time is right, have it bottled with your choice of bottle, your own label, and calling it whatever you want. My dad retired last year from a transport company where whisky is one of the biggest contracts, so on advice my dad was given, we went to Whisky Broker in Creetown, where director Martin, who had an endless wealth of fascinating knowledge and enthusiasm, gave us a guided tour of his ever-growing site. It was really cool learning about the whole process and meeting the staff, including the dog, Rusty. By the way, if whisky's your thing, then this is Scotland after all, so there's always several distilleries. This is no different on or near the Southwest Coastal 300 route. Once we left Creetown, our next stop was only down the road, Carsluith Castle. However, there were large roadworks at the castle entrance with temporary traffic lights and we couldn't get to it. Another thing to check out next time. So we pushed on to the next stop, which was Southerness Lighthouse. Instead of hitting the A75 taking you to Castle Douglas, we programmed the sat-nav to take us to the most coastal road the whole way, which opened up all manners of hidden gems. Not in an amazing road for bikers, sweeping corners kind of way, but it just seemed like an adventure with all the different types of roads and scenery. I'd definitely recommend it. So we get to the Southerness Lighthouse, Scotland's second oldest lighthouse, where the structure and the immediate surrounding area looks like it could be the album cover for Zeppelin or The Who. We'd planned to get lunch in Dumfries or the surrounding area, but we were still reeling from the mammoth breakfast we had in the hotel, so we stopped at the Boathouse restaurant on the way to Caerlaverock Castle for a coffee and cake. They have a cool outdoor seating area next to a nice view right on the River Neath. Suitably topped up, we visited the castle, which was pretty cool. It's such an unusual castle with it having a triangular footprint. The castle was obliterated around 1640 when it was besieged and never repaired, meaning you can walk around the back and see the whole of the inside. There's also a nature reserve where you can do plenty of walking and exploring, but walking is for people that don't have bikes, so we cracked on, heading in a loop back to Dumfries, over through Bankend, so not to retrace our steps. Next up, I don't think we did this right because the route in the Southwest Coastal 300 website shows you joining the B7076 after Lockerbie, rather than the A74, and sort of winding your way up, passing through Moffat until you get to Elvanfoot, the very northeast corner of the official route. Elvanfoot was just a sort of anchor point to start heading southwest to Leadhills, then Mennock. This is about 25 minutes in total and takes you through the Mennock Pass, which was the most beautiful road on the trip, full of sheep. Google Maps has a picture point of where we thought we were riding to a stop for a photo op, but the whole pass is the photo op. It's like riding through a painting. Honestly, a new epic view is revealed turn after turn as you make your way through the hills with the stream running alongside you. I actually got goosebumps when I looked back through the footage to start editing, as it was making me kind of relive it. There are so many good views on this trip and so many things to do in the Southwest Coastal 300, but if there is one thing that is non-negotiable, it is this road. Once you get to Mennock itself, head further south for 10 minutes to Drumlanrig Castle. There's a choice of 3 roads to get there and I can't remember which one we took, I really should type this up a few days after the trip rather than weeks. Anyway, Drumlanrig Castle is cool. It was shut when we got there, but the grounds, which are amazing, were open, with an invisible tree-framed entrance, a really old, big tree to the left of the front of the castle, and various places to explore. But not us, we prefer roads. After Drumlanrig Castle, you're on the home stretch. We blast west along the A76 to Dalmellington, then northwest to get back to the start of the Southwest Coastal 300 in Ayr. The road from Dalmellington is actually the start of one of my favourite roads anywhere, which runs from just after Ayr to Dalmellington, down the A713, further down to New Galloway, then over the A712 Queensway through the Galloway Forest Park to Newton Stewart. Ayr to Newton Stewart is under an hour and a half this way, and it's a great ride out. And that's it. I don't know the total mileage, as both of us forgot to record it, including all the off-piste roads, but that was the Southwest Coastal 300. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to heading back down, catching the places we missed, and hopefully visiting our cask. As for next year, because things have opened up, it's time to start travelling again, and I've got big plans for the bike, and I hope to see you then.